Good morning or afternoon, year 3. I hope you're well and looking forward to our science session today. Building on our knowledge of healthy bodies, today we're going to think about what muscles are and understand how skeletal muscles help us to move. Within that, to be a successful scientist today, we need to understand what muscles are. We need to understand the types of muscles that we have. As scientists, you'll need to see the functions, so the job that different muscles do, and then you're going to plan how to use them or plan how somebody else could use them. Maybe somebody else like me. Well, not like me, somebody else who's a grown up. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, guys, get ready to learn, remember, and then plan to get somebody healthy. Okay, thinking back to our prior knowledge, sorry guys, my head's in the way again. We're thinking as we recall some of our previous knowledge, we're just thinking about how else we've kept healthy. So rather than just keeping healthy by exercise and by utilizing our muscles, we also keep healthy by balancing what we eat. Now, looking at this pyramid or this triangle of food, you can see that different groupings of food have more servings across a week than others should do. And at the top, we can see that one type is supposed to be used sparingly, so not very often. So have a think, pause the video whilst you have a think about what each of these groups could be called. Okay, so pause the video, have a think about what each group is called. Okay, looking at these now, we can see at the bottom we've got the idea that we should eat between 6 and 11 servings of bread, cereal, rice, and pasta. We call those carbohydrates, guys. Then we've got our vegetables, which over the course of a week we should eat 3 to 5 servings of, so plenty of that. Then our fruit, which is coming up next, which is 2 to 4 servings. Really, we say try and eat approximately 5 portions of fruit and vegetable a day. It's quite a lot of fruit and vegetables we want to be eating. Then we've got some meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs, or nuts. That's for our protein particularly, which we benefit from. So even if you're somebody who chooses or your family chooses not to eat meat or veg or eggs, you can still through beans and nuts get those proteins which you need. We've got our milk, yogurt, and cheese, our dairy products, which lots of us enjoy. We shouldn't eat too many of them because they contain quite a lot of fats, but they can have lots of nutritious elements in there for us, such as calcium. And then sparingly, so not very often, we shouldn't eat too many things with fats, oils, or sweets in. Okay, a treat, a bit of a balanced element to it, but if we eat them too often, we could put too much pressure on our body. Okay, so that's looking at our healthy diet, just to remind us of those. Okay, we're looking today at a word which is muscle. Now, lots of us know something about muscles, so we're going to go through the vocabulary of it before we learn a bit more about it. And as we go through the vocabulary of it, hopefully you'll understand a bit about the word. So these are some sections. Now, when we do vocabulary, and we'll do this in history in future lessons as well, and maybe in some other science lessons, when we do vocabulary, we split sometimes into these different parts. Now, definition means what the word means. So muscles means, sorry guys, I pressed the wrong button. Muscles means a tissue in animal body. So it's part of an animal's body, and we are animals. Okay, the main purpose of muscles is to help move body parts. Okay, so it's to ensure that people like me could do that. Okay, without muscles, I wouldn't be able to do that with my fingers or nod my head from side to side. Okay, so that's the purpose, the job of muscles. If we break down the word muscle, mus is part of the word which Latin, so about 1,000 years ago in common speaking, 1,500 years ago, people used a word which meant little mouse. Now, some people think that's because muscles sometimes look like little mice because they're crouched up. But also sometimes people think because the actual physical appearance of a muscle looks a little bit like a mouse, that's where muscle and mouse comes from, the link between the two. Nobody's around who's that old, though, who can explain to us how it all works. But some people think that's where the word origin comes from. Here's a muscly man. It's not me, unfortunately. Here's somebody who's very muscly, and we can see lots of muscles in their physical appearance there. A synonym is a word which might mean something similar. So a similar idea is sinew or tissue, as we see that tissue is part of the definition of muscle. Antonym, so that's the opposite meaning, the antonym of a muscle. So somebody who's not muscular will be powerless or weak. And then to use that word, we might say something like the athletes had ensured their muscles were in prime condition, so in perfect condition before the Olympics. So we know that the Olympics this year is going to be in 2021 in Tokyo rather than last year because of the bug, because of COVID. But all these athletes who are going to be going there in July and August will want to get their muscles so they're really strong and ready for all their jumping, running and throwing events and the other events that they're taking part in. So that's the vocabulary of muscles. Okay, guys. So we've already thought about the food that we eat and how our skeletons work. So I know some of us did some fantastic work on skeletons, and a few of you even scared me with your fearful spiders. So thank you for those. But what I'd like you to do today is to think a little bit about how else we can ensure that we move. Okay, so we're thinking today about how else we make sure that we're able to move. Okay, so we need muscles so that we're able to move. The job of muscles is to make us move, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of them. There's absolutely loads of muscles in our body. They're made of lots of little stretchy fibers, and they're grouped together. And there's 3 different types of muscles. Okay, so we're going to look at those different types of muscles now. And as we do that, we're hopefully going to understand a little bit more about how we can use each type of muscle and how we can ensure that we, like the athletes, have perfectly prepared muscles. Okay, now, just before we carry on, guys, when I've been talking about things that we've seen this week, I must say that some of your pictures of your work are absolutely fantastic. So Oliver, Rebecca, thank you for the work you sent through. Ruben as well, keeping going with it. Leah, thank you very much, and Alana. I'm particularly impressed though by that scary spider that came in. So thank you very much for that scary spider. I was wowed by it. I was worried by it. Please don't leave it in my classroom when it comes in. Okay, guys. Smooth muscles then are our first type of muscle. There are muscles that move without you controlling them. So these are things like, for example, our inside. And when you're in year 4, you'll learn about our digestive system with our different elements which go from the mouth all the way down the rectum and go through our large and our small intestine, and how food comes out of us the other end, okay, and helps us move. But these muscles inside us, we don't tell them to move. They move without us controlling them. They're smooth muscles. We've also got cardiac muscles. These are ones which help our heart pump things around our body and to make sure we are able to continue getting blood to where it needs to get to. And finally, sorry guys, I'm going to have to move my face again, not on top of the muscly body, unfortunately. These are muscles, the skeletal muscles are attached to bones and are muscles that can move when you want to. You use your skeletal muscles to do things like kicking a ball, walking, holding a pen, and for lots of other things. And we're going to think about some of the other things we can do with them in a few minutes. Okay, each movement of your body uses muscles. Okay, so even blinking, I'm going to go up there to try and stay out of the way now. Blinking your eyelids to kicking your legs, we use our muscles thousands of times every day without even thinking about it. So we don't have to think about it when we use our muscles. Some of them we just use without thinking about it, like we said. Okay, so what I'd like you to try and do is just smile on one side, using a muscle. Can you wink? Can you blink? All of that's using muscles. Can you try and move each of your fingers? Good job. Okie dokie. Now, as well as using muscles for moving, we also need muscles for sitting still. So where I am now, when I'm leaning in, I'm not being as strong because my back's not as straight because I'm not sitting up straight. Our muscles and our skeleton work together to support us and keep us upright. If we had no muscles, we would be just like that. Just like our skeletal models last week, we would just be a puddle on the floor. We wouldn't have any power to ensure that we were upright. Okay, these are diagrams which show somebody lifting a weight up and down. Now, this is definitely not me. This muscle that we can see on the outside of that person's arm is called the extensor. As the flexor contracts, okay, so the flex is the one on the other side. I'm going to try and show my arm. Okay, so this would be the flexor, and that would be the extensor. Okay, so as this one contracts, so contracts means it gets smaller, it comes together. This muscle relaxes to allow the body, the bone to move. Okay, so that flexor contracts to make it smaller, so it comes in on itself. As it is attached to the forearm, it pulls it up. So because this muscle, when it gets smaller, it pulls our arm up and therefore ensures that our forearm, this part of our body, moves. Okay, so that's the flexor and our extensor. Okay, now if we go down with our weight, okay, so pretend we've got a big weight in our hands. I'll pick up a box of cookies. Okay, we've got a weight in our hands. this muscle there contracts, okay, as this muscle relaxes, okay, and it gets, as this one gets longer. This allows the arm to move back again. So this is when this one's relaxing and this one is contracting. So relaxing, contracting, relaxing, contracting. Okay. Try and do that a few times. Maybe get a tin of beans or something and lift something up like that at home, so you understand that you've got your flexor and your extensor, and when it goes up like this, it is contracting, and when it goes down like this, the flexor is relaxed. Okay, now try and use some of those. These are biceps. Okay, and see how you feel. If you fancy picking up the beans, have a go at doing that. Some other elements of our main muscles here, we've got our pectoral, abdominal, thigh, calf, forearm, biceps, triceps, shoulders, and jaws. So lots of collections of different muscles that we can see. You'll have a look on that on your worksheet later, so don't worry too much about that now. Now, your muscles get stronger. And this is what we're saying about those athletes going to Tokyo for the Olympics. The more you use them, if your muscles are used to being used, they get bigger and more flexible. If they're not used to being used and are suddenly used without warming up, you can get hurt. You can get tired and sore muscles. So dancers, before they do their dancing, before they do their ballet or their other types of dancing, they stretch and they stretch and they stretch. And the same as gymnastics. Some of you might have been to the GMAC at the Alexandra Stadium, and they spend a lot more time stretching than they do doing the gymnastics, so they don't hurt themselves. Same here with bodybuilders. They gradually build their muscles up so that they don't just go, oh, I can lift this really strong thing. Oh, no, I can't. So they have to practice over a lot of time. Animals are really strong too. They've got lots and lots of muscles, and they build their muscles up to help them survive. So have a pause and think about animals that you think they're either fast or strong or powerful, and that might show that they've got special muscles. Okay, guys, having a think. Cheetah's super quick animal. Okay, they've got really strong leg muscles, so they can run really fast to catch their prey, to catch their dinner. We've got crocodiles and their jaw muscles, which are very good for eating with. Okay, and they can catch and kill their prey easily. So never let a crocodile be your teacher, year 3. Bad idea. You're losing here. Okay, and finally, we've got these eagles and other birds which have powerful wing muscles, so they can fly for a long time.